When I first figured out that I had an autoimmune condition, I struggled to even know where to begin. Despite reading everything I could get my hands on, I had so many symptoms that had become overwhelming that it seemed like I would never be able to unwind them. With my educate myself from scratch approach, all of the reading and trying different things was very time consuming. I knew that if one of my experiments failed, then I was that much further away from feeling better. And the cost was crippling me. And one day, that's exactly what happened. I became what I call exhausted autoimmune. That's when I dug in even deeper and found what really worked for me and so many others. And that's when I came up with the whole body happy effect and quickly started to watch my own symptoms melt away. The whole body happy effect is a powerful approach to feeling your best. Other people have implemented it to boost their energy, get their lives back, achieve their dreams, and feel the best they have in years. And the best part is that it's simple and intuitive, and you don't need a time-consuming, limited diet to be successful. And oh my, it's about so much more than just diet, which you'll see in a little bit. Do you want to learn how to implement this powerful autoimmune approach, although you don't even need to be autoimmune, and become a thriving go-getter in your own life? Then let's dig in and get started. This is section 1. What is an autoimmune condition and what are some examples? So what exactly is an autoimmune condition? A textbook definition looks something like this. Thank you to Merriam-Webster. Quote, of or relating to or caused by autoantibodies or T cells that attack molecules, cells, or tissues of the organism producing them. End quote. But that's not very helpful, is it? So I like to think of it this way. Gremlins. Any healthy person creates antibodies, which are proteins in the blood that protect us from unwanted bacteria, viruses, and even cancer cells. The cells and organs that battle these foreign invaders, they make up the immune system. In some people, the antibodies become like gremlins and they begin attacking the healthy tissues as well. This creates an autoimmune condition, which is an immune response directed against yourself. And here are some examples. Some resources will tell you that there are more than 80 autoimmune conditions, while the Autoimmune Related Diseases Association has identified over 100 serious chronic diseases that are identified as autoimmune. The best known are type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis. Other autoimmune conditions are very common, like Crohn's and colitis, psoriasis, and thyroid-related conditions like Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. So what's the difference in the numbers? Some organizations categorize additional diseases as autoimmune because they have autoimmune components to them, like type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's. With household terms like those, the world of autoimmune just got bigger, didn't it? How are all autoimmune conditions similar? The common underlying theme with all autoimmune conditions that makes them similar is inflammation. So even if both you and I have completely different autoimmune conditions, then there's one thing we know for sure. We both suffer from inflammation. It's as simple as that. Section 3, how does an autoimmune condition really affect you? The number one symptom that people complain the most about, regardless of their condition, is exhaustion. And we're talking about the kind of exhaustion that is capable of completely taking you down. You become totally and completely exhausted autoimmune. Most people say they feel like they're just trying to survive the day, or that once they get home from work, they don't have the energy to do anything else. It can be debilitating. And of course, there's so many more symptoms that are common, like body pain and simply not feeling like yourself anymore. the list of symptoms you may personally be experiencing is long. And what's worse is that almost always the symptoms are completely unseen from the outside, which means that other people have no clue that anything is wrong with you. You look perfect from the outside, which leads to some unfortunate outcomes, such as people don't believe that anything is wrong with you. You explain yourself a lot with words like, "Today is a difficult day." Said often enough, of course, it creates an unwanted reputation. You grin and bear it and shudder yourself behind an "everything is good" false persona. There are no good ways to describe to someone who isn't autoimmune exactly what it feels like. But my best descriptions that I get head nods to are like this. You want to crawl out of your own skin. Sometimes it's like mildly or not so mildly, feeling hungover for days or months on end without the fun that preceded it. You feel crappy, exhausted, itchy, in pain, and like a cold or the flu is coming on, all at the same time. And all you can do is exist in it, which leaves you feeling like you have to muster energy to just do normal things. You're just trying to survive the day. Does that shed any new light on autoimmunity for you? I hope so. So let's keep going. We're going to jump into section 4. So can you actually get over your autoimmune condition? This is how autoimmunity is different from other conditions. So let's talk about the battle. When we think about diseases like cancer, we think about waging war. We think about conquering it, since our bodies aren't really able to conquer it on its own. With autoimmunity, it's a little bit the opposite. Your body is waging a battle that you didn't agree to. You can think of it as an unfortunate friendly fire. And the area being attacked is your weak link. So for example, for me with a thyroid-related condition, my body likes to battle my thyroid. Similarly, if your body likes to attack your joints, then you end up with rheumatoid arthritis. Make sense? Okay, so then if there's an attack already going on, then does taking a defensive battle stance in return really sound like the best idea? Think about it. In our household, when our teenagers get into it, it's one escalation after another. One of them throws out a verbal jab, then comes the other one, and pretty quickly it escalates to complete and utter unkindness. You know what I'm talking about, unless you can calm down both parties. In the world of autoimmunity, your conscious waking self most likely wasn't aware that an attack was even underway. It's not like the loud teenagers that you can hear across the house until a long time later when you start to feel more tired than normal or began to have other symptoms. It's a silent, undetected battle. Once you have symptoms, to continue my teenage analogy, it's too late for quips and street smarts or to even talk it out nicely. And what's crazy with autoimmunity is that you don't know if the battle is a small disagreement or if your body is waging a full-out war, at least not from the outside or from the seat you're sitting in right now. So does it make sense to enter a blind battle, is the question. And how would you even go about that? You really have two options. One is to retreat, otherwise known as carry the burden. Diffuse the situation is number 2. Carrying the burden or retreating is what most people do, and it's what we do by default. When you don't know there's even a battle going on and you're hit with symptoms, then it's normal to wait it out a bit to see if it will go away, right? I mean, you wouldn't run to the doctor because you were tired this week, would you? And even if you did, wouldn't your doctor just say, "Yes, you're tired, get some rest"? Of course that would be the response. So then it only makes sense that you carry the burden for a while. But if you're carrying the burden and retreating and the battle continues, then doesn't it just back you up further and further? Sadly, in the game of autoimmunity, there isn't really a white flag to raise. Once you scream, "Uncle," it just keeps coming at you until you're retreating so far that, well, let's go to diffusing the situation. Have you ever had to talk someone down from the proverbial ledge, so to speak? There's a lot of getting their attention, usually kindly, and there's a calm clearness that's required to talk them down. But with effort and patience, it works. And then magically, everyone goes on their merry way. Imagine if you could take that stance with an autoimmune condition. What do you think would happen? Do you think you could turn around some of your symptoms? The whole body happy effect is all about diffusing your autoimmune condition, so you have the know-how to reduce your symptoms. People say to me all the time that autoimmune conditions can't be reversed. And reversed is a strong word, so it's not the one I'd really choose. After all, once you're diagnosed, the diagnosis tends to follow you. And that's the stark reality. Maybe reduced is a better word, or as I like to think, an autoimmune condition can be diffused into just a soft whisper. But the symptoms themselves, regardless of the condition, time and time again, I've personally experienced them being eliminated. And that's the case for many of us who follow the 4 pillars of the whole body happy effect. So let's go into the 5th section. The strategy behind reducing symptoms explained. The strategy is simple, really. It's as clear as reduce your inflammation. But actually doing that is a bit of a 3D puzzle. And the puzzle pieces may not be exactly what you think they are. And when you're left on your own, the way that I was when I first began, it's a long uphill battle. Here's what I discovered. When I ate healthy, I felt better. So this is step 1 for me. But then that sort of plateaued. So I ate strict, fad diets, and I've tried almost all of them. At first I had results, but then I just felt overwhelmed by the amount of cooking I was doing. And I say this as a chef. And then I got so sick of eating the same foods or missing entire food groups. Once I felt like I was in a food cage, I knew it wasn't the way to have long-term success. At least not as someone whose life revolves around food. So back to healthy eating I went. And while it was relieving to not be in a food cage, I continued to stay at a plateau. Although I have to say in hindsight that the food alone approach was a pretty good plateau. I relieved some symptoms and didn't gain new ones. Then there was exercise, so that was number 2. I was already an athlete and had been since I was a young child, so all that I really knew was to push hard, and that's who I was surrounding myself with. One of my closest friends was a pro athlete. I went on massive hikes and enjoyed monster days of skiing. I rock and ice climbed for entire weekends. I felt good training for marathons, triathlons, and 100-mile days on my bike. Anything under a 5-mile run felt silly. And now recounting all of this crazy on seems a bit silly. But 1 as in diet and 2 as in exercise does not equal 3. And I'm telling you this because it crushed me, even when I thought I was taking it easy. So I took it down a notch. I worked hard, played a lot less than I had been, parented my then toddler with so much joy, got to really know many of the daughters in our more recently blended family, and ate wonderfully. And then I fell to my knees, covered in hives, for an entire summer, unable to hold all the balls up in the air. And yet, I was pretty sure I was doing most everything right. Even doctors told me I was healthy and eating and exercising well. I was pretty much a model when it came to diet and exercise. So I know that you may be falling into this trap too. Finally, after a lot of those experiments I mentioned earlier, I discovered quite accidentally how to reduce my symptoms, and for good. And surprisingly, it was a small twist on something I'd learned a long time before. I just didn't know how deeply to take it when I'd originally heard the words. I even started interviewing people who were recovering like I was, and I discovered that they were doing the same things I was. Well, that was interesting, which is how I created the whole body happy effect. But more about that at another time. On to reducing your symptoms. So this is section 6. How can you reduce the symptoms of your autoimmune condition in 4 steps? This is where the whole body happy effect plays a role. It's delivered through the online program, Your Diet for Life, and it helps you reduce your symptoms by diffusing your autoimmune condition when you concentrate gently in 4 key areas. 1 is diet. This is what you eat and what you don't eat. There are no 2 ways about it. You need to eat a healthy diet. But that doesn't mean that you need to live on a rigid diet. In fact, Your Diet for Life is based on the most scientifically studied diet that is the highest ranked year over year for simplicity. Can you guess what diet that is? Number 2 is lifestyle. This is all the things you do in your life. Exercise fits in here, but so do mindfulness, meditation, and thankfulness. But it doesn't stop there. Lifestyle is all about your passions and how you live your life within reason. When you truly enjoy your well-being, your perspective shifts, and so does how you feel. It's like having a new lease on life. Number 3 is balance. This is how you do the things you choose to do in your life. There are key areas that we all need in our lives to feel fulfilled. And when we neglect some of those areas and indulge in others, we become less satisfied and often stressed. Remember all of that pushing myself to the limit stuff that I talked about earlier? Well, as soon as I backed off an inch and learned to be a bit more gentle with myself, things started to improve. Uncovering these types of imbalances, we all have them, is key. And number 4 is the inner you. This is how you show up for yourself. This is about being gentle when you need to be gentle and about putting on the gas when you need some oomph. This is about how you talk to yourself. It's about being good with your own stillness and silence. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you put these 4 things together, you begin to diffuse your autoimmune condition. Think about how it works. Give your body the healthy nutrients in great varieties that it needs to heal and thrive. And you take away the stuff that hasn't been making you feel fantastic. And then you bring in the things that really matter in your life and you bring them to the forefront. And you enjoy these aspects of your life with balance, so you reduce stress. And finally, you concentrate on your you and become a little less critical of yourself. Put it all together and you reduce your stress and your burden. And when you do this, inflammation starts to go away. A little at first and then a lot. And then it's not out of the question to wake up one day and realize that you can't remember the last time you hit snooze in the morning on the alarm clock or felt really tired in the middle of the day, which is what happened to me unexpectedly. Let's move on to the 7th section. What are the benefits to reducing your symptoms now instead of later? You have a choice. You can stay right where you are right now and continue to have symptoms. Over time, if you continue to retreat, statistically speaking, you'll get another autoimmune condition on top of what you already have going on right now. And the cycle will continue. Or you can choose to be a thriving go-getter. And that's someone who has the tools and the know-how to transform their health so they have the energy to achieve their dreams. If you're ready to diffuse your autoimmune condition and become whole body happy again, then check out the resources by clicking around this video and find out your exhaustion score here. I'm Kim Curtis, and I'm the chef and creator of the Whole Body Happy Effect. Have a great day.